There's no secret that out of the history of Yu-Gi-Oh, the card artwork has been getting a little bit weirder and weirder, and I found this video that I have not watched personally yet titled Yu-Gi-Oh Cards Are Starting to Get Really Weird, and today I wanted to react to it for you. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle, I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Please go show the creators some support in the pinned comment down below, description down below as well. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about some artwork.
You know, I could sound like a Yu-Gi boomer for saying this, but I remember a time when Yu-Gi-Oh's artwork was, I don't know, for the lack of better words, it was grungy and sophisticated.
You know what's crazy? That's actually a good way to describe it, although it's it doesn't sound good, but it's an accurate thing.
Yu-Gi-Oh's art when I was growing up challenged a lot of Western norms, so much that the card game was almost banned in the States.
I didn't know the card game was, I'm assuming that's true. I didn't know the card game was banned. I know that there's a lot that they had to rework with and, you know, challenging Western norms. Shocking, eh?
The art encapsulated what can be considered as Gothic tones, religious ceremonies, and even ancient lore from other cultures of the past.
And that was so cool about it, even if you want to dive into the anime show about it too. I love, and this is, I know this is a relatively new channel, but something we're going to be talking about is the art of the cards on this channel. I can't wait to talk more about that.
Now, it's not to say that the older Yu-Gi-Oh didn't have its fair share of fan service. In fact, it very much did. And it's also not to say that modern Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have Gothic tones, religious ceremonies, and even ancient lore from other cultures.
It's just not nearly as much, and we're getting a lot of like the anime girl cards nowadays.
That's still true. But the biggest issue that I'm having with Yu-Gi-Oh is the shift on consistency on how these themes are coming out.
Uh-oh.
In fact, I can go as far to say that Yu-Gi-Oh is having a modern day revolution that I am not a fan of. Instead of the concepts that we've grown to know and love, it's almost feel like it's been dominated by fan service Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, I knew that was probably where it was going to go. It's a lot more of like everybody loves Dark Magician Girl. We're going to pump up more cards like Dark Magician Girl. And it's understandable because what sells, right? You have a Dark Magician type girl, you can make cards like that. People are more likely to even try that archetype just so they can look at those cards.
Decks. And not only does this dissuade the target audience that Konami has been trying to reach in the TCG, which is the children, it also invites a demographic of players not welcome to society, which hurts the overall culture. In case you guys didn't know who I am, hi, I'm TheCaliEffect, and I've been playing this game for 23 years.
Now, I've never personally seen this channel, but so far I'm really enjoying the video. I'm definitely going to be subscribing. And again, please go show some support in the comment section, pinned comment, and description down below.
I played it since its very humble beginnings with starter deck Yugi and Kaiba all the way till now.
I haven't really gotten involved too much in the modern game. I stopped playing around like the Pendulum days. Lynx is where I completely called it quits, excuse me. When I started playing, it was when the Force Raider tin came out. I don't know the year, but I remember it being new and cool, and that started my passion for the game.
And while it isn't a huge problem for the masses right now, I think that Yu-Gi-Oh's artwork is starting to become very concerning. Let's go ahead and jump on in.
What are we going to see? What are we going to see? I don't know what we're about to see.
Now, when it comes to art and controversy, Yu-Gi-Oh is no stranger whatsoever.
And I wish that they would just like stick with it, man. Like there was so many, especially with the old cards. The artwork is phenomenal. I don't even care that it challenges any sort of Western norms. It was just cool.
In fact, when Yu-Gi-Oh first made his debut, there were a couple of cards that had to be changed because of the art depiction and some of the card names.
So wasn't it some? I thought there was like a lot more than just some, because I can think of like quite a few off the top of my head.
Well, if you know anybody that plays Yu-Gi-Oh and they believe in God at the same time, tell them about this. I mean, this is like a witchcraft game. This is a game to play spells on kids. It really is.
You know what's crazy is I get that, man. I'm somebody of I'm a believer in faith myself, and part of me, you know, depending on like very, very specific things, goes like, is that crossing a line? I don't really know. But at the end of the day, I play the game.
Some of my favorite cards that had to be immediately changed was a card named Trial of Hell, with the sword sticking through the coffin with blood.
Sorry for the quick pause there. My dog ended up jumping back in, but I didn't even know about this one specifically. Oh, I didn't even realize I'm in the way. I'm gonna have to like bounce around these types of things. I don't even think I knew about this one, but yeah, leave it to Western society to, but then again, like, I get it if you were trying to market to kids, but at the same time, like, is it that big of a deal for a card? I don't know.
Blood protruding from both sides and the name Hell in it. This was a complete no-go for America at the time.
Yeah, actually, that's true, especially like we're circling back to the time as well, right?
And had its artwork completely changed. The original card is a depiction of an Ankh, and now it's switched to a relic that has no real resemblance of
Huh. You know, I've never thought twice about that. I thought it was just a rework. I didn't think that it was redone. To be honest with you, I kind of like really like the design of the new one. To be honest with you, like I'm pointing this way. I actually really like that design specifically, but I never even thought about it.
Of said card. And just to be 100% fair here, while there are other cards that are more towards lore and religion, there were still a fair share of cards that had to be censored for the fan service.
Yeah, the Harpy Ladies were a big one. I didn't even know about this one, the anime censored. I didn't even know they changed it even more for that. I thought they would just use the CCG variant, but yeah, look at that. Look at the difference with this one over here, man. That's really funny.
And this may double down that Cali is a boomer, but when I was growing up, the only way to get actual confirmation that these cards were what they were was to have the original OCG versions. The internet was not as a reliable source. In fact, most of us didn't even have it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, we certainly had the internet, but we had a ton of platforms, kind of like it'd be discussion boards like Reddit, where you couldn't really like take what people had. You can't take what people had to say at face value.
Talk about the dark ages.
Whether you believe in spells and curses or not, they are very real. I've lived them. I've been under such demonic attack and oppression that most people would send me to think I belonged in a mental hospital.
Oh, what's the point of seeing that one? Is he just selling it?
And now you're probably wondering, why exactly were these cards even printed in the first place? Some of them seem really dark and grudgy, following certain ceremonies that weren't really popular to talk about in America.
And I don't know, like, did they come out? They came out with the show first, right? That would make sense because of like what the whole show was about. Plus, I just thought it was cool, man. Like, and again, I'm somebody who believes in faith as well, but like, I just still think the cards are like super cool in the way that they like went about like creating all the archetypes and things like that.
Others were completely nudity. For a children's card game, this was a complete no-go. But I think in order to actually understand, you probably have to dive into Japanese culture a little bit more. You see, one thing about Japanese culture is that they were very more open when it comes to religious practices and nudity. And
yeah, I didn't know any of that. I've always found like, man, from what you do figure out though, it seems like they just do everything right over there, especially like as time's gone on, right?
In fact, I can go as far to say is that if you or your parents were probably offended by those pictures, then you're probably American.
But then again, like, I don't know if offended's the right word for it, because I would certainly like something like the Harpy Ladies. It's not a big deal, right? It isn't, but I don't think they ever crossed a line where I would personally have a problem with it. I can't think of anything that's definitely crossed the line. It's just like I look at that and I go, okay, it's a little bit suggestive, but I don't really think twice about it.
Because most of the world has different aspects and different ways to view things. While nudity in America is often sexualized, in other cultures, that's not necessarily a thing. And the interesting thing about it is that it can be vice versa. Like example, when I was growing up...
Man, we're making a great video today, guys. Sorry about that. Now my wife needed my attention. I hope the video is still enjoyable for you guys over here, even with my pauses.
Guns weren't really that much of a huge problem. My uncles had a gun. My cousins had a gun. My grandma had a gun. Heck, I even touched guns when I was younger. And in other places in the world, that is not normal whatsoever.
Yeah, I can tell you, like, I live over in Canada, and I'm not going to get into a whole gun debate over here. That's not what the video is obviously about, but that is just a pure example because pretty well everybody over in Canada is like, oh, those Americans and their guns. And I'm not saying, again, please don't assume anything about myself. I keep all my and that would fall into some sort of political opinion. I keep that stuff private to myself. I'm just saying, like, it's interesting how things change with culture. But I didn't know that nudity was kind of different over in Japan. Nudity is a tough one for me, though, because I am somebody who is very, very, disheartened by our hypersexualized culture. But when we talk about, like, nudity over in Japan, is it kind of like the same deal? I don't really know.
But I think the thing that makes culture so beautiful is that when we're in that area, we can experience that culture, show love and respect.
Yes, I do agree with that, though. That is a great way to go about it.
Why personally...
And sorry to pause again. If you have a problem with that, then don't go to that part of the world.
It has been very easy for me to turn a blind eye to some of the cards that have been printed in recent times. But if the target audience for the Western world is going to stay adolescent boys, I think there's going to be a huge problem. You see, like I said before, in different cultures, we view things differently. And one thing that I've noticed about in America as opposed to Japanese culture is when Yu-Gi-Oh cards are portrayed in a particular way, Americans think a lot different. I think when things started to go downhill is when Konami took the proverbial training wheels off of these cards.
Did they ever stop? Yeah, I guess they did, didn't they? I never really thought about that. Because we hear about all of these old cards like not being censored, but maybe they just like don't edit them anymore, but maybe he gets into it.
Instead of censoring anything that could be considered slightly perverted, and trust me, there's tons of cards that fit that criteria, they've actually allowed more and more cards to slip through the cracks, while some censorship has been really weird. I mean, adolescents in the West have found a way to turn Trap Trick Sarah and Sky Striker Ace Ray into all different types of things that I can...
Oh no, dude. Look at this other one, man. That's not shocking. But even then, why are they drawing the cards to, like, I'm not saying that that's attractive. You need to believe me. Okay, you need to believe me when I say this. Sonny. Oh. Classy girl. Always when we're recording, eh? Hi, baby. I don't know how long she's been doing that for. But, like, it's just not shocking, man. I don't like when they start to get to this territory where it's like, and I don't want to hear somebody comment down below, well, the Trap Tricks card's actually 28. That looks like a child, and I do not want to hear anything about that being sexualized.
Cannot say on YouTube. And with these cards being printed at more of a rapid rate than they once were before, it's starting to become a huge problem if you were trying to get adolescent players into the game, at least the correct way. And of course, in some cases, there's no helping this. Because if I know anything about Americans, they have a penchant for turning just about anything into Gooner's work.
Yup. Dude, I don't know. You're probably going to find something about, like, the worm archetype and how sexualized that's become. I'm sure there's a niche somewhere turning that stuff into, like, Gooner material.
What I'm saying is, instead of being more reserved and players using their imagination to turn anything into their work, Konami is leaving a lot less to imagine. This has essentially brought me to the next situation.
The problem is, though, is sex sells, right? And it always has, especially for people who like to collect their cards. Like, how many... And I know that nobody's ever going to admit to this in the comment section down below or anything along those lines, but I guarantee you that you know somebody, or you may even be somebody who is more likely to play an archetype because you enjoyed the way the cards looked.
Art invites some of the worst type of people. And for the people that haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh long enough, it's so bad that I don't even have to mention anything about the player, and most Yu-Gi-Oh players already have that person in their mind.
Unfortunately, I don't know who he's talking about.
I want to make it incredibly clear that I do not fault Konami for this particular situation. Culturally, on their side, it is 100% accepted for them to make these type of cards.
What happened? What happened? Did somebody start making artwork of, like, I don't know. I can't think of, like, a archetype for kids. Like, the only kid card I can think of off the top of my head is Hero Kid.
But unfortunately, the type of players that these cards produce in the Americas are completely terrible. Yu-Gi-Oh players that make and buy custom provocative accessories to be able to use for their cards. Oftentimes, they're
Oh, and this says how there's so many card sleeves that are just disgusting. I see now. Yeah, I've come across that. I used to play a lot competitively, and there were a lot of people with disgusting is a light term for what people had.
Recording images in a negative way, so negative that a child probably shouldn't be present in that room, or
Agreed.
The person should be arrested.
Yes.
Usually, this particular player doesn't have the best hygiene or sense of self.
Isn't it crazy, too, that those people, like, have no problem playing with those sleeves. And now I know what type of things that he's talking about. They have no problem with that. And I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, we should just scope a room and figure out who's playing with those cards and then check their hard drive.
And a lot of times they're so zoned out, they don't even understand they're doing something very inappropriate, especially when this game is still marketed towards kids in America. And like I said before, I think that these players will always be prevalent. I've noticed an uptick in these particular players.
Yeah, but you need to... You know, on YouTube, I would never suggest such a thing, but some might say a solution to that is to bring bullying back or to shame that type of behavior. You know, any behavior that is any sort of suggestive towards that, maybe we should be shaming.
Strictly because of the new way that Konami has been putting out art. The way that Konami has been recently putting out art is really reminiscent of those gacha mobile games, the type of games with the half-naked women wearing some type of maid outfit of some sort, or maybe even a mecha suit, which there's been an uptick of that inside of Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, those type of players with the low social skills. And
But the problem is, though, if you're talking about card sleeves, yeah, but the problem is sometimes you have decks full of, like, suggestive cards that do have fun play styles, things like that. For example, it's not a good example. Not a good example at all because it's not suggestive. But like I'm thinking like I'm a big fan of the Fortune Lady cards. I've always liked that archetype. I've always thought like the way their cards work are fun to play. But someone could look at that and go, oh, you just like to goon to the Fortune Lady cards. But the problem is, like, those cards aren't really suggestive, so I don't know if it's a good example. But I'm just saying we can't group everybody into a box, right?
I'm being so incredibly honest with you. I think that that is one of the leading reasons why players stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I know personally there has been times where I've walked into the shop, seen those particular players, and immediately have lost all interest in playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In the TCG for that particular
Yeah, you wouldn't want to get caught because, you know why? Because you're normal. You wouldn't want to be caught with somebody like that.
day. I've had women and parents approach me about this situation and also decide to not play Yu-Gi-Oh! At local shops because of this as well. And of course, that particular culture is in pretty much every single card game, but it seems to be more pronounced in Yu-Gi-Oh! Than any of the others, and I think it's mainly because of the art that's being presented in.
Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not. I guess I'll have to take him at his word because I'm just not familiar with any other card games. This is the only one that I have any sort of knowledge on, but I could sit here and talk about the hypersexualized culture and why people are okay with all of that stuff, but I don't think we're gonna win this fight, man.
Front of them, and it's really a shame because Yu-Gi-Oh! Does have some incredible art that follows some really good lore storyline.
I don't know. I think he's kind of insecure.
Correct me if I'm wrong down below in the comment section, but I think one of the best pieces of lore is the branded lore. In my opinion, it has the perfect mix of cards that follow an aesthetic that everybody can love. From the branded All-Bass cards to the Sword Soul, Tri-Brigade monsters, all of these card games bring a unique aesthetic and promote the card game in a healthy way.
Wait,
and
was that a new card game he was talking about? Because I have no idea what he's talking about. Maybe that if there was some Yu-Gi-Oh cards, they've been released past my time. But there's a few apologies, guys. There's a few things mentioned here that I'm not up to speed with.
While players do still inappropriately display cards like Incredible Ecclesia or Fallen Albas, the cards themselves don't necessarily go out of the way to make themselves presented in that way. And then we have strategies like Malice, which when I originally seen them, I genuinely thought they were fan art.
Oh my god, look at this one. Yeah, there's a lot of people that would play the deck just for that.
Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, and even the new Dragon Tales cards, in my opinion, crosses a line. Not only are the themes on point with a cliche mobile game, it goes out of the way to clearly detail certain aspects and images that would promote that type of culture.
Agreed. Very, very well said, man. And it'd be different if they were releasing like the same amount that they used to, but now it's obvious that they're starting to like get a little bit more intertwined with. They're probably seeing some sales from that.
And that brings me to my third and final point. I think if this continues on the way, it will actually hurt the game's long-term success. One thing that we have to be incredibly mindful with our culture is that some things that we do will not be accepted by all of the cultures. For example, my people season their chicken. Some people may be offended by that, if you know what I mean.
Hey, I have no problem with seasoning chicken. Not bad, not bad. I like I'm a big fan of chicken in general. I'm good with any.
I'm not saying lose sight of who you are, but if you want to be the biggest and the best, you're gonna have to appeal to as many people as possible. And
that's well said, man. But then again, sex sells. Sex sells, and I'm sure that Konami knows that. And I'm not here like defending it and saying like just because sex sells, you should do it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's understandable.
One thing that you can do to appeal to a massive audience is not do something that will promote a type of culture that won't be conducive to you 5, 10, and 15 years in the future. Now, this video is the start of a new series, Big Dog. I'm going to put this video out as a form of a particular question, and I really want to know if I'm tripping or not.
I'm ready.
I think that it's really healthy to have these type of discussions.
And I actually really like the discussion that we've had. Like, I mean, as much of a discussion as you could have in a reaction video over here, but I've never watched this channel before, and I'm going to definitely be watching more. And again, guys, please go show some love in the pinned comment description down below. The links will be there.
More importantly, get feedback from you guys, because you guys are very, very important to me. And of course, Big Dog, as with any new series, if you want to see more videos like this, you already know what to do. Go ahead, like.
Oh, I thought there was going to be a question. Hang on, is there going to be a question?
No, I'm putting it on my Patreon as a special thank you for helping me pay my editors a lot early. But let me know, in your opinion, has Yu-Gi-Oh's art gone too far? Or does this old timer just need his medication?
No way, man. No way it's gone too far. I'm sorry. No way it's a you problem, man, because it's just life was a lot better, I will say. Like, culture was a lot better back in the day. And don't take that out of context. It's very, very important to note that, guys. But there were a couple things that he brought up that I would imagine he's in his early 30s, like, you know, when the game kind of first started and all that. But who knows? I guess that's really besides the point. But there was a lot. The culture was a lot more together. The culture was a lot more better. The culture did not have any gooners, I'll tell you that. And it sucks to see that type of stuff, kind of. I don't want to say infecting the game because it still has like its incredible amount of artwork and there's a ton of stuff that we can take a look at. It's just like, oh, and I just thought of that, man. I talked about like we're gonna make a series talking about, you know, the artwork of the cards. What happens when we get to that? Are we just gonna like be reviewing Gooner cards? I don't know. Regardless, let me know what you think down below. Again, please go show support, pin comment, description down below. But if you already are subscribed to that channel, then why don't you check out this video that we talked about the hat format. I would love to have you over there. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, everybody.